Hello, dear friends. Welcome to this evening talk brought to you by the Spiritist Society of Bournemouth and Poole Christian Spiritualist Church. I am Fabrício Assunção from the Spiritist Society of Bournemouth. We broadcast many Spiritist studies online each week in English or Portuguese. If you'd like to take part or tune in to any of our activities, please go to our Facebook page for further details. For our talk tonight, we are honored to have our guest speaker, our dear friend Charles Kempf from France. Charles has a distinguished record of service to the Spiritist movement. He has been leader on the Léon Denis Center of Spiritist Studies in Moldhaus, France, for over 20 years. He is president of the French Spiritist Federation. Charles is a former General Secretary of the International Spiritist Council and was also responsible for council coordination in Europe. He is a researcher of the history of Spiritism and Allan Kardec, and is a member of the working group for the Spiritist Encyclopedia. His talk is entitled Jesus at Present Time. A big welcome to you, Charles. Tonight's event is one of our series of fortnightly talks exploring the psychological series of books by the spirit of Joanna de Ângelis. These books were psychographed by the famous spiritist medium Divaldo Franco. Through Divaldo mediumship, the spirit of Joanna has written hundreds of books during the last 40 years, including poems and other spiritual works. We are very much look forward to our talk tonight, Charles. Usually at this point, I would hand over to our friend Lawrence Saville at the Poole Christian Spiritualist Church for our opening prayer. Laura cannot be with us this evening, and we send him our best wishes. Our opening prayer will be instead offered by Bob Williams from the Spirit Society of Bournemouth. Over to you, Bob.
Good evening, everyone. Let us be still and at peace in the great cosmos of creation. Let us recognize the presence of our Heavenly Parent with us now. Eternal God, our Creator, our Heavenly Parent, we thank you for your love and your kindness to us and to all our loved ones in the spiritual realm. We rejoice that your love, O God, is a love that never fails us. O God of the visible and the invisible, as we join together today under your care and under your protection, we pray that the good spirits and our guardian angels will watch over us to help us to do always what is good in your sight. We ask you to guide and bless the work of our spiritualist groups and spiritist groups, and especially the work of Charles Kempf, the Poole Christian Spiritualist Church, and the Spiritist Society of Bournemouth. O God, may you lead us, each one of us, into all truth. We ask you to guide us in our study tonight, to inspire us and to direct us to follow in your path of truth and love. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Bob. Now it's my great pleasure to hand over to Charles Kempf for his talk, Jesus at the Present Time. Over to you, Charles.
Thank you, Fabrizio. Good evening, Fabrizio. Good evening, Bob. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone, depending on where you are around the world. Thanks a lot to the Spiritist Society of Bournemouth and also the Poole Christian Spiritualist Church for this opportunity to bring some lights from this fantastic series of this psychological collection of books from Joanna de Ângelis and Divaldo Franco, fully in line with the basis that were brought by Kardec 160, more than 160 years ago now. and bringing us a lot of enlightenments about Jesus, about who he was, what he wasn't. I also would like to apologize for my not very good English and the French accent, but still I hope that even so I will be capable to express myself reasonably, or at least you will have the possibility to understand what I'm saying. Should I say something which is not clear, please just don't hesitate to interrupt me to ask for clarifications. Okay, so starting with, I think I will start with my slides. Fabricio, if you can share them. Okay, here we are. I'm just introducing with Allan Kardec, who published 18th of April 1857 this book, Le Livre des Esprits, the Spirits book. It is more than 160 years ago, as I told, and which is a revolutionary book, still not understood in its full extent, and the huge added value he is bringing to the humanity. So it's a question of time. All the new things need time to be accepted. There is a huge change resistance, as we know, but slowly but surely, the truth will overcome, and we will get there. This book really is studying, applying a scientific method, the questions which were up to now reserved to the religions, to the traditional religions, questions like God, like Jesus, like Gospels, like soul, spirit, reincarnation, and so on. And for the subject of today, it's bringing, for instance, the teachings that, of course, God is the infinite, supreme intelligence, first cause of everything, creator of all what is existing in the universe. And Jesus is not God. So this is a departure from the conceptions of many traditional religions. Jesus is simply a very, very elevated spirit who created very simple, as we all have been created, but probably for sure even much before us. So he had the time to progress more, but we can be sure that one day, for me, it will be in a very, very long time, I will also reach that level of evolution. So Jesus is not God, it's simply a very highly evolved spirit, which is how to say, mixed with God sometimes, because from our littleness, from our poor view, we are sometimes mixing what is very big to the infinite. You know, like in mathematics, you have the curve coming closer and closer and closer to the asymptote, but never touches it. So this is exactly the situation. So Jesus is a spirit who came to earth, incarnated, and who left us a bright message that we will study a little bit today under the psychological point of view from Joanna de Ângelis. So the context in the 19th century, I will go a little bit quicker. The circumstances were quite favorable for bringing this new book, who had immediate success, more success at that time that it has today. Albeit today, you see, 160 years later, this book is published in, I lost the number of languages, but it's something like 30 different languages, and over millions of editions in Brazil, for instance. And only in France, we have around 10 publishing companies which are still publishing this book today. And the book is sold even today, several thousands of issues every year. So there is a lot of people, in French-speaking people, which are still studying the book. And this is without, nowadays, the free download that you can find everywhere on the net. So after French Revolution, the philosophy and psychology, which is interesting us today, followed the spiritualist paradigm. And I mention here some of these rational spiritualist philosophers, Mende Biran mainly, Victor Cousin, And in the philosophy, this rational spiritualism was taught. So the paradigm of the philosophy and also of the psychology in the midst of the 19th century were based on a spiritualist paradigm. The basic principles were the freedom, the free will, the fundamental role of will, which can only be of spiritual origin. The will, so different from one being to the other, cannot be explained as a product from the random, deterministic biochemical reactions in our brain. So this really is a conception which is extremely reductionist and which doesn't make sense at all and doesn't fit to what we are observing in the reality. It is also teaching autonomy. So each one as per his own merits, each one progressing as per its own work and rhythm, opposed to heteronomy, which was the position during centuries, even millenniums, from the churches and a lot of other the governments and so on, the kings and emperors and so on. You have to do this because it's written in the Bible or because the Pope has told that. And even if you don't understand, you need to believe in it, because if you don't do it, you go to hell. Only if you do it, you go to heaven. So this is typically heteronomy. And in the revolutions we had at the late 18th and early 19th century, the humankind reached a degree of evolution banning this type of approach, and nobody wants to come back 200 years ago nowadays. So this autonomy and the freedom are really still fundamental today, and it is one of the basic characteristics of the spiritist body of knowledge. Okay. So this I will pull, as well. So Kardec brought a factual basis to the rational spiritualism. So because he was observing the paranormal phenomenon, mediums, mediumistic phenomenon, turning table, psychography, and so on. And he studied and observed and made the deduction with a pure scientific methodology, even ahead on time to all the theoretical conception who came later through Imre Lakatos, Thomas Kuhn, and other specialists of the epistemology science. Okay. So he published a spirits book, but then he completed it with a mediums book, talking more about the practice, Gospel According to Spiritism, where he's describing a lot exactly about Jesus, where we can find the interpretation helped by the spirits of the meaning of Jesus' messages and mission. Heaven and Hell, which is also a very interesting book. First part, how to say, addressed more to the people who were educated in the Christian religion. What makes sense, what doesn't make sense in the notions of heaven, hell, evil, angels, and so on. Second part being a collection of spiritual messages where the spirits are showing what they became depending on what they have done in this life. So sustaining the ethical principle of the spiritist philosophy. And the Genesis, which was the last book he wrote, where he's developing several points which were not developed in the four first books, which is also maybe the most complex one, where you have the quintessence of Kardec's thoughts. Continuing, I also will quote again, coming back to psychology. When you look to the Spiritist magazine, you have the cover page of the first issue of 1858 on the right side. There is a subtitle, Journal d'études psychologiques, which means Journal of Psychological Studies. So today, when someone sees this, they are claiming, I don't understand, Spiritism has nothing to see with psychology. It had to see a lot at that time when psychology was based on spiritualist paradigm. It doesn't, psychology has changed because psychology is today, at least in France, the mainstream psychology is based on a materialistic point of view. And it's quite strange because when we look the etymology of the word psychology, it comes from the Latin psychologia, which means psycho meaning of the soul, spirit, psyche, or mind, and logia from the Greek word logos, which means denotes the characteristics, actions, or departments of knowledge that precedes the logos. A simpler translation would be the study of, meaning that psychology is the study of the soul, the spirit, the psyche, or the mind. So you see, the soul, the spirit, the psyche of the mind. So the mind, on the scientific current science, is considered as the produce of the brain, but the spirit, which is independent of the physical body, this is by far not so much taken into account in modern psychology, at least, again, in France. I know that some countries are changing, and that's good, coming back to the truth and to the evidences, but there is still a lot of resistance in this. So this is why Kardec put this subtitle, and it was fully, how to say, consistent with the notion of psychology at that time, in the midst of the 19th century. So we can just note that the spirit or soul is not mentioned in the contemporary concept of psychology. And here I bring you a definition also coming from the Oxford English Dictionary. What is psychology? The scientific study of the nature, functioning, and development of the human mind, including the faculties of reason, emotion, perception, communication, etc. The branch of science that deals with the human or animal mind as an entity and in its relationship with the body and to the environmental or social context based on observation of the behavior of individuals or groups or individuals in particular, ordinary or experimentally controlled circumstances. So you see, we talk here about mind twice, mind, but spirit or soul is not mentioned anymore in the today's definition. So that is why it's a little bit misleading. But if we contextualize this, explain it, it helps in understanding the work that Joanna de Ângelis did. Another characteristic of Spiritism, as I told it already, is the autonomy. And here you have a sentence going very straight in this. Unshakable faith is only that which can meet reason face to face in every human epoch. So the faith is no more blind. The faith should be reasoned. Should meet reason face to face. Because blind faith, unfortunately, today, nowadays, it was already the case in the past, but today it's still the case, leads to fanaticism, integrism, and all these problems we see in the humanity. But allying faith with reason, with knowledge, with science, is bringing a much, much stronger faith, which is, as Kardec wrote, unshakable. Okay? So again, from heteronomy to autonomy. Spiritism does not say believe first and you may understand later if you can. It rather says understand first and you may believe later on if you want so. Okay. Yes, so this I think I will jump, otherwise it will be too long. Yes, so you see, I repeat here that in the 19th century, science shifted and psychology shifted to a materialist paradigm, which is still in it today. But at that time, it was partly as a reaction against abuses of traditional religions. So religions were abusing, then you had the opposite case, which is a science, which was opposing strongly to the religion. It was a struggle, albeit sometimes there were alliance of circumstances when it was about of dominating people or inspiring, pushing to come back to heteronomy. They sometimes worked hand in hand. But spiritualism and modern spiritualism have been following a scientific approach to investigate spiritual matters, following a spiritualist paradigm, a new approach taking the best aspects of science and religion and also removing the worst aspect of each. So the materialist paradigm or dogma of the science, which is reducing dogmatically, because nobody has ever proven that the spirit, independent of the physical body, does not exist. And also removing all these abuses of religion, hierarchical, sacerdotal hierarchy, all this burning of people, fighting against science, pushing for autonomy, and so on and so on. So Spiritism really took the best of each one and made something new out of the box that we as human, we always want to classify the thing. So something which is out of the box, we are pushing it back to the boxes. So it's a kind of resistance that we are opposing to this knowledge, but for sure it will be soon understood in its full extent and meaning. Okay. I will also make here two quotes which are coming from the Gospel according to Spiritism, that you have this new edition revised by our dear Janet Duncan. And the first section of this book is entitled, I have not come to destroy the law. And Kardec tells us, Spiritism is the new science that has come to reveal to humanity, by means of irrefutable proofs, the existence and nature of the spiritual world, and its relationship with the physical world. It appears not as something supernatural, but on the contrary, as one of the living and incessantly active forces of nature. Jesus, just as Christ said, I'm not come to destroy the law, but to fulfill it, so Spiritism says, we have not come to destroy the Christian law, but to carry it out. It teaches nothing contrary to what Christ taught. Rather, it develops and it explains in a manner that can be understood by everyone. It completes what had previously been known only in its allegoric form. So Kardec is here clearly confirming as well that the moral, the ethical principle or the moral which is taught by the spirits is fully in line, fully consistent with the moral that Jesus has left us in the Gospels. So again, showing that these moral principles left by Jesus are extremely actual. This is to introduce the theme, Jesus and the actuality. And we will see it now a little bit through the book of Joanna de Ângelis. You have seen here the cover of the book in Portuguese. I don't know, Fabrizio, if it's already translated into English.
This book,
Yes.
yes. Yeah,
Okay.
we have it translated in English now.
So I should have asked you before to put the English cover, but okay, never mind. So it is inspired by the spirit of Joanna de Ângelis, and the medium was Divaldo Pereira Franco. And it's also first volume of the psychological collection. It has been released in 1989. And this psychological collection, I don't remember if it's 16 or 17th volume. So you see a huge work that has been done by this spirit and also by the medium Divaldo Pereira Franco. So this book is divided into 20 chapters that you see the titles here. Jesus and Challenges, Jesus and Reincarnation, Jesus and Humanity, Jesus and Love, Jesus and Tolerance, Jesus and Honor, Jesus and Justice. You see, always Jesus and even the title is Jesus and Actuality. So very consistent in this part. So continuing to the sections, Jesus and Duty, Jesus and Joy, Jesus and Courage, Jesus and Decision, Jesus and Responsibility and Revolution, Possessions, Torments, Rest, Insecurity, Suffering, Ingratitude, and Enemies. So you see all these words here, all these sections are talking about one psychological aspect, which is extremely actual, which is really in our daily basis, in our daily concerns. Okay, so this is why I told to Fabrizio when he asked me to talk about psychology. I'm not psychologist, so I will have tough time. But one of the book I can understand is this one. So he accepted that I treat this subject, which is how to say very simple psychology, sorry, which can be treated by an engineer, a non-psychological specialist. Okay, so let's go on. So I selected from each of these 20 chapters on one slide. So I have 20 slides now to come. Some of the excerpts or copy pasting from the book. I'm sorry, I translated it myself again, so it may be not exactly the one as you see in your book, but which is already translated into English. But even so, again, I think you will understand it. Alors, Jesus and so the first one is Jesus and challenges. Okay. So Joanna de Ângelis says us, Master's Jesus' entire life was a continual succession of challenges. He came really in a very tough period, in a very tough area, with a lot of struggle, a lot of different trends, and so on. So he really faced a lot of challenges throughout his whole life. So again, let's see a little bit better how he overcame to these challenges. So Joanna continues, he did not accept to carry the burden of the world for the redemption of the others, but taught each one to conduct its own commitment in peace of conscience. He didn't take on other people's tasks, nor did he fail to demonstrate how to do them. However, haughty, without presumption, nor without coward submission. So you see, again, I was talking about heteronomy and autonomy. Here we can see that the teaching of Jesus were purely autonomous. He did not suffer something to save others. This is also an invention from the traditional religions, for some of them at least. It makes no sense one doing something for the other. No, the evolution is really up to each of us. It's only with our own efforts that we will evolve. Our happiness cannot be bought and can also not be delegated to someone else. Forgiving someone is also something that only oneself can do. Okay, this is basically what Jesus is explaining us here. Challenged, Jesus won. Follow him and never stop at the challenges for your spiritual growth. So here, really, we should never give up. The challenges are part of our life. They are helping us to grow. We had the challenge of the COVID, for instance. So it was a challenge to check, to test our patience, our resignation, our care, that we are ready to reduce a little bit our liberty, not to infringe the liberty of the next one, and so on. So the challenges are really awakening our consciences, helping us to make this inner, to observe ourselves and to work, to detect our defects and to work to remove them. Okay. Next one is Jesus and reincarnation. So the official Christian religions are very seldomly believing in reincarnation, at least openly. But Jesus was clearly, he made several mentions confirming clearly the reincarnation. Albeit at that time, he could not explain in detail what it was, because the people would not have been ready to understand it in the full extent. And Joanna is telling us the psychotherapy he used was centered on reincarnation, for knowing that man is the shaper of his own destiny, living according to what has been established by himself through acts in past experiences. So again, nothing arbitrary, no one even claiming that is the injustice, why me, and so on. No, this does not exist. Joanna is clearly confirming that we are shaping our own destiny, and what we live today is a consequence of what we have done in the case when we suffer wrong in the past. Okay, so this is another very fundamental principle of the Spiritist teachings that were clearly introduced by Jesus, and that we cannot understand reasoning on one life only. When we are thinking on one life only, we cannot understand why some are healthy, other one are ill, some are intelligent, the other one not. Some are born rich and the other one poor. We cannot understand those things. It is not in line with the infinite justice of God. So only with reincarnation is that we can understand all these apparent differences which are existing that we can see around us. Okay, and Jesus explains that also very clearly. Shorten your rebirth by acting correctly and serving without worry, with joy, therefore, that you mayest enter in the kingdom of heaven, which extends from consciousness towards infinity. It is necessary to be born again, as he emphasized. Okay, so the reincarnation is really this opportunity. Let's make use for our evolution. Let's make use of each incarnation of this life, of this time, this hour, to build already a better future for us, so that we can be happy as early as possible. Do we want to be happy in this life or only in next life? No, let's be happy already in this life. Let's be happy today and work today for our future. Okay, nothing is lost. All our efforts will get a recompense sooner or later, a reward sooner or later. Now, Jesus and humanity, the third section. Having created no doctrine or system, Jesus made his life the model for man to humanize himself, acquiring the higher expression. Jesus was not Christian. Christianity has been built by humankind based on Jesus. Jesus, he did not put a theory or whatever. He came and taught by example of his life. So we have the examples of his life. How did he behave in such and such condition? How did he behave in front of something else? So we have here a model. We have here a guide that we can follow. And I like the people who are telling when you have an issue at a given point in time in your life, just stop. Don't go too quickly, and think, what would Jesus do in this situation? And it helps a lot to find our best position, in order to overcome the problem or to solve the situation. Okay. So Jesus really brought the example, and it's the humanity. So for the model of him, of humankind, to humanize himself. While the greatest thinkers of all time established methods and system of doctrines, he sustained in love the foundation of ethics, humanizing for happiness. So to be humanized, also follow the ethics. This is, if everyone follows the ethics, our society, our world will completely change. Okay, and this is what we need for this transition our Earth is passing through. If we want to collaborate to that, let's follow this example of Jesus. Be human, and don't give up on ethics, and continue on our betterment, our inner reform, moral reform. So it's by improving ourselves that we will improve the whole society little by little. It is up to you now to forget for a moment your little things and receive him, thus Christifying you in the achievement of your full and total fulfillment. We recognize here the wording of Joanna de Ângelis. I think it's the 18th emission I'm doing today. Yeah? So in the 17 previous one, you certainly have seen a lot these words and verbs that Joanna de Ângelis likes a lot. Plenitude, or humanizing and fulfillment. And not only her, because it's something which is coming now around and back from all the different spiritualist philosophies which are existing around the world. Now, Jesus and love. His entire life was developed on a plan of deep integration with the divine consciousness, keeping individually in perfect psychophysical balance. Okay, and this is also characteristic. How to say, the love is basically the infinite love is coming from God. So we are growing in love when we are growing in understanding this love of God, the laws of nature, which are also perfect, and putting us in harmony with these laws of nature. Okay. And Jesus really showed us showed this to us by the example in his own life. Out of love, he chose a despised Samaritan to make him the symbol of solidarity. Okay, so you had the official religious guys. They went the poor guy on the. They have so seen the poor guy on the floor, and nobody helped him. But the Samaritan, which was sometimes considered as not a very good religious man, he stopped and helped the poor man on the ground. So this is exactly love. It's not the religion we have. It's not the how to say the label we can put on our front. Huh? It is what we are doing out of it. And this is why Kardec told also, out of charity, which is the love in action, there is no salvation. With love, he released an adulterous woman, removing her complex of fault. The one who did never make a sin has to throw the first stone, and everyone just left that place. And then telling to the woman, please, where are they? So please don't start again, otherwise it could happen even worse to you. So always with love, compassion, removing the complex of fault and giving always a chance to change, to make this reform and to become a better person. It has become and continues to be the symbol of integral love of humanity, to which a profound and liberating human feeling awaits. So that if we want to summarize the Gospels of Jesus, the New Testament, in one word, we could resume it as love, as simple as that. The whole four Gospels can be summarized in one word, which is love. And this is really the revolution, the disruption that was brought by Jesus. Tolerance now, Jesus and tolerance. So Joanna is telling us, again, all the quotes which you see here are coming out of the books, out of this book. Guilt is a disturbing shadow in the personality, responsible for serious infirmities, causing misfortunes of various kinds. And really, when we think about guilt, is not helping. I have made a mistake. Okay, I'm guilty. I recognize the mistake. But instead of staying in this guilt, the best attitude is to say, okay, stop. How can I do now to repair, to fix it, to improve, to change, to prevent that it never happens again, and so on. So you see, instead of being in a vicious circle of guilt, no, let's go into a beneficial, positive, growing circle of how can we fix it? How can we go beyond? For this reason, tolerance imposes itself on everyone as a personal therapy and fraternal understanding the difficulties of the fallen, which while stretching him generous hands to uplift it. So when we see someone guilty, we should not judge, because judging someone, if Jesus would have judged this poor woman, no, he did not do it. He simply helped her, stretching her the hand in order to help her to come out of this situation. So the tolerance is really something which is indispensable. We are not perfect, so we all make mistakes. So if we don't have tolerance towards the mistakes of our neighbor, of our fellows, how can we work together and do something together? Only God is perfect. We are not perfect, so we are doing mistakes. So again, the guilt is not helping. We should, and I was happy because in my professional life, we had a customer for which we sold a new product, which was of course not working 100% the first time. And then this customer, which was a Dutch one, said to us, look, we are not judging you because of this mistake, but rather we are judging you seeing that you are here. You did not run away, but you are here to help, to fix, to listen to us, to find solutions, to overcome the difficulties created, or to repair, let's say, the mistake. So this is exactly this example of tolerance in action. As you see, Jesus practiced it, and it's still really actual subject. Jesus was always severe in educating the judges of the behaviors of others. This also, you can see it at several places. The people who are only judging and claiming and shouting and criticizing, and this is a lot of us have this miserable habit to claim and no, this is not bringing us to anywhere. Let's be clear, having understanding this, tolerances, making our own part, and proceed. The master established the beautiful image of the man who has a beam, making it difficult for him to a beam in his eye, making him difficult to see, and yet he sees the mote in the eye of his neighbor. I think here the translation is not very good. I apologize for this, but I think you understand the episode. So the one who has a big beam in his eye, he's seeing the small problem of the other. So judging the other of things for which we are much worse. So we are absolutely not in a position to judge. And this is why we should replace this judgment by tolerance. See, again, a very nice example from Jesus, still fully applicable nowadays. Now, Jesus and honor, knowing what you want in life and how to get it, this is the birth process of personal maturity, breaking atavism from their own roots that come from the spiritual past. Okay, there is never a favorable wind for the one who doesn't know where he wants to go to. So we really have to know what we want in our, what is the purpose of our life, and then from this, to put in place all the actions and mechanisms to reach it. Okay. So this is a question, again, a process of personal maturity, which is coming through that. And of course, our spiritual pasts are, we have all what I call a lot of big hurdles that we are pushing from our past. So we really have to work to get rid of them and then to proceed again positively in the right direction. Here we are. For this effort, honor becomes his incomparable inner guide, pushing him forward in the steps he must take without stopping any longer. Okay. Honor is the courage to choose the best. See, this very simple definition that Joanna is giving us in this book. That's why this book I like, because there are some very simple and clear sentences. And when it goes in more in depth in the psychology, I have a little bit difficulty to follow. But this one, no, this one is very simple and straightforward. The conscience of duty will manifest to you in honor, of following in patterns of respect for everyone and everything, however, of total freedom under the leadership of Jesus. So again, we are all free. We have our free will. We can do or not do. We can do right or not. We can, how to say, follow our conscience, which is saying us when we have done something good or something wrong. We have good conscience or bad conscience, and let's then seek all what follow these advices and make such that we have more and more good conscience and less bad conscience. Now, Jesus and justice. In a just society, everyone enjoys equal opportunities to progress against an identical distribution of income. In it, the strong supports the weak, the healthy helps the sick, the young helps the elderly, natural behavior, arising from a clear conscience of duty, which establishes the happiness as a consequence of solidarity between different creatures. Is it really like this already on the earth today? Not really, isn't it? Somewhere, sometimes, some places, for sure, yes, but far from being general. Our societies are not so just, and I mean, we have this inner feeling, how to say, we are seeking this justice, and as well as if we see something unjust happening, it brings us some revolt, you see. And this shows that this inner sentiment of justice is really part of the natural laws. Okay. Jesus made himself a champion of equal justice. He always treated all in the same way, he never made some differences between the others. He, of course, adapted his language to when he was facing people with more knowledge and people with less knowledge. He taught more things to his apostles who had more conditions to understand the more complex thing. That what he taught to the population in general, who at that time, and I was part of it, did not have the maturity and the understanding or the means to understand properly more detailed teachings. But he was really this champion of equal justice. His attitude towards people was always the same, benevolent, with the aim of education. So willing the best and also willing helping the people to improve. For your part, be fair, equitable to everyone, taking as a model of behavior Jesus, who never refused it. Okay, so again, this justice is something that we have, that Jesus showed us, and that will help us also to for the betterment of ourselves and also of the society. Now, the Jesus and duty: be useful in any and all circumstances, promote progress, live with dignity. These are some expressions of duty before life. We always claim for our rights, often forgetting our duties, isn't it? Huh? We claim because we want freedom, we want liberty, we don't want to use with the COVID again the mask. But of course, the neighbor also doesn't want to use this, and we have also our duties. We need to one of our duty is not to put someone else in danger. So we have to think more about our duties and not only about our rights, because without if no one follows the duties, no one will have rights as well. If no one respects the liberty of the neighbor, then the liberty is gone. The liberty goes only with notion of duty and with discipline, isn't it? Actions must predominate because it is a result of duty. For action, mellifluous or comforting words are not needed, but the decision to perform it correctly. So here again, we need to ensure that we have a elevated say-to-do ratio. Okay, saying is good, but it's not enough. We need also to act accordingly. And there is nothing worse of people do what I say, but don't do what I do. And this, I think in UK or in Western Europe is really you use totally your credibility. So the duty is not only theoretical, it is also in practice in our own life. The Spiritists, again, we are embracing the Spiritist teachings. So we have to make our efforts. We are not perfect. We are doing mistakes, of course, but we are making efforts to become better persons and also to put in practice the teachings we are spreading. Otherwise, we will not go very far. Actions must predominate because it is the result of duty. For action, as this I have seen, sorry. Jesus always proposes duty actions. Understand well in order to better act. So understand the law of natures and then act in harmony with them. And Jesus, he cured a lot of people, paralytic people, and so on. But he always told them, go and don't start again. Don't make the same mistakes. Otherwise, it can happen some things even worse to you. So again, calling for actions. Okay, now I have given you a lift. I have helped you to overcome your difficulties. But if you do the same mistakes, you will have the same consequences again. Okay. Never promise to do what you don't intend to do. This is also something, of course, Sometimes we have the tendency to overcommit, but rather we should say no sometimes than taking a commitment that we cannot overcome. And when Fabrizio asked me to do this talk today about psychology, I was a little bit afraid again. But when he accepted, okay, you can talk about this book, which is quite simple psychology, then I thought, okay, this one, I think I can commit to do it, and today I'm here. The duty that imposes on you renunciation and sacrifice also raises you to harmony, freeing you from conflicts and doubts. Sometimes we have to, how to say, accept. We have to what we can control. Of course, we have to do to control it in the best way. But if something is totally out of control, but then we need to have some renunciation, and we need sometimes also to accept the sacrifice. We cannot do nothing against, because it's, we could say, as usually, God's will. So let's go and fix it, and knowing that even if we have to die somewhere, that the life continues after the death, with the spiritualist paradigm, and this helps us also a lot, gives us more courage to overcome difficulties in the very complex situations. Now, Jesus and joy. So not everything is sad. So we talk also about joy. And Joanna starts saying, this sadness that dominates you, embittering your hours, is serious disease that you must fight from now on. So never ever let this sad thinking amplify in your head. Try to fight against them from the beginning. Several methods, by your will, of course, by reading good things, happy things, joy things, in order to fight against this sadness. But because the sadness then goes into depression and so on, serious diseases, as Joanna is writing here. And we have really to be aware and to catch it from the beginning, and then doing something that we like, or taking care about animals we like, or going into the nature, looking to the trees, the flowers, and so on. We have so many things, or having read good books like this one, for instance. This will help us a lot in this direction. Everything around you is a hymn of praise, joy, gratitude of God. Watch it well. So let's open our eyes and see all this harmony in the nature, in the universe, all these stars in the sky. Of course, sometimes it's raining, but the rain is also good for the plants, for the flowers, for wherever, for the water we need for our health, for washing, for drinking, and so on. We always can see the positive things in nature, because nature, again, the law of nature are perfect. So let's watch them well, and then we will understand the beauty of them, and this will help us also in going the direction of joy. You are a candidate for the summits of the mountain, not a condemned to the galleries in the shadows, or useless remorse, or in the pool of lost tears. A nice sentence also from Joanna. Rejoice, proposed Jesus. The kingdom of God come unto you. And this is also some positive effect brought by spiritualism and spiritism, because we see what is the purpose of life. It's evolution. So even if we are little evolved today, we will evolve. And it's as per our own effort, we can even evolve quicker. And we know that everything evolves. Albeit we see in the earth a lot of problems, pollution, the nature claiming stop because of our exaggerations. No, we will grow, the humanity will grow, the earth is in this transition to a world of regeneration, where there will be a better equilibrium between good and evil. And we know that this will come. The fact of knowing the purpose of life, which is evolution, gives us this confidence and these forces to it will give us basically the joy, because we know after each problem generally comes, each crisis generally comes a time, comes better times. Continuing, this realm is within us, waiting to be discovered and inhabited. So we should know ourselves better. Jesus and courage. So Jesus showed courage in a lot of episodes of his life, the courage of Jesus. His life was a constant challenge. In continuous struggle in favor of the good, he never failed to act correctly with dismay. Humble, he was not subservient. Affable, he did not become mushy. Friend, he did not qualify as a subordinate. So you see, always allying the best of everything, the best equilibrium. Lean on him. In or out of tribulation, seek him. And that's a way which will help us to give this courage. Courage is born from the moral values of the man who chooses a correct conduct for a happy life. And spiritists should be courageous. Spiritists should not fear death anymore. We can fear travel, we can fear change, we may have some apprehension, of course, this is human. But we know that the day we will pass away, go back to the spiritual world, our spirit will survive, and his situation will depend on exclusively on our consciousness. So let's make the effort to have good consciousness, and then the courage to face every difficulty in life, even severe diseases, and to see how to say passing away with serenity. Take the courage of Jesus as an example for your life and continue calmly. This is also another characteristic. We know that the thing will resolve. We know that after the storm comes the sun again. So when we see the difficult situation, we can stay calm. And staying calm, we keep control of ourselves and have better resources to overcome the difficulty. Now, Jesus and decision. The time is running. Fabrizio, how long do I have still?
No, it's okay. Carry on.
Okay, so I have not so many anymore. Alors, decision was also, material enjoyments are very vigorous chains that jugulate man or humankind to primitive passions that should have been overcome for their own benefit, but which almost always lead them to moral decomposition, to the death of liberating ideals. So we really have to decide, what do we want? Do we want material enjoyments, knowing that the day we will pass away, we don't take with us our house, our car, our money, bank account, not even our physical body? Or do we really want to cultivate and to work on what we will take with us on the other side? Again, our consciousness, good or not, all what we learned intellectually and morally. These are the values which are immortal and that we will take with us. All what is material, sooner or later, we will have to leave them here. And even sometimes in the same life, we can lose them at any moment. We have seen so many crises in the past, such situation, so it can happen at any moment again. So we should really focus to the immortal values and not to the temporary ones, which are exactly these material enjoyments. Fear is a dissolving factor of human individuality, responsible for serious disasters and crimes that could be avoided. So fear, again, is something which goes against courage. It goes also against decision. We have fear of what we don't know. So when we have fear, we should try to study. We have fear of fire, for instance, but the fireman has no fear of fire. He knows what it is. He knows the risk. He knows what the do's and don't do's. So he can face it and help us to fix it and save lives and so on. So we should replace the fear by intelligence. Fear is really something which makes us lose our means, lose the self-control. Postponing the decision, procrastination, when to take it. Probably the circumstances will no longer be the same, and your situation will be different, maybe complicated. No, I don't want to do this today. Let's do it tomorrow. But who knows tomorrow? Maybe the situation is much more complicated, and what we could easily have done today will be more difficult to do tomorrow. If we have to do it anyhow, why to wait tomorrow? This is all part of this decision-making process. Huh? This is the moment, finalizes Joanna de Ângelis. Now, responsibility. This is also a very important one. There is in human latent, a strong mechanism that leads him to flee from responsibility, transferring its failure to someone else in the condition of social individual or for the circumstantial factors of luck, birth, or even from God. So we always want to flee from our responsibility. But again, liberty, we all want to be free, isn't it? But liberty goes only with responsibility. We can do or not do whatever, but we are responsible for our own choices. So we should not flee from the responsibility. At the opposite, we should really be responsible, as we say. Yeah? When this does not happen in the area of their behavioral projections, clings to the guilty complex, plunging into the depressions, hiding his childness regardless of the organic age in which they pass. So again, you see, the complex of guilt is really something terrible, leading even to depression, to deep depression. It's one of the big factors leading to depression. So no, let's be responsible again. Huh? Responsibility results, says Joanna, from the conscience that discerns and understands the reason of human existence, its purpose and goals, working in assuming the role that life is destined for. Again, we know where we want to. We know this purpose of life, where we are coming from, where we want to go to. So let's again, with this conscience, be responsible and proactive, go and march towards our own progress. Humanity survives thanks to its responsible men, who they continually work for the good, the beautiful, and the ideal. Yes, and we had Jesus, we had a lot of such missionaries who came showing us exactly the way. Now, Jesus and revolution, Joanna says, revolutionary par excellence, Jesus established the struggle from the inside out, the death of the old man and the birth of the new man. Jesus was somehow revolutionary, even not perceived as such. Huh? He also knew that the effort was hard and only perseverance, time, and work would lead to victory. That way, he didn't get angry and he never got impatient. You see, 2000 years after his incarnation here on earth, he is still misunderstood and his message is still wrongly interpreted, sometimes even used to dominate masses and so on in an opposite way of what he wanted 2000 years later, isn't it? So really, we need to have this patience because all the new ideas are facing this resistance, how to say, they are brought to other intentions and so on, deviated, and really it takes time. But surely, slowly but surely, it's being understood more and more. Following his instructions, revolutionize yourself, breaking with the convenience, the self-flagellation, self-pity with the dark past. And it's interesting because in the company I was working, everyone is looking for the disruptions, for the disruptive ideas, which is really helping the humanity in the process. We see several examples. The invention of the PCs in the 80s. We can see more recently increased reality. We can see by the social media. Who was thinking about social media even 15 years ago? 20 years ago, internet. All this means that we have today to be together. Albeit I'm here something like 1,000 kilometers away from Bournemouth. No, we are here together, talking together, and there are some people watching us from the other side of the earth on real time. It's really incredible how the things have progressed. And this is why we really have to revolutionize ourselves. Again, the old man that you have seen on the old slide, just take it away. And let's go, let's hesitate, revolutionize the materialistic paradigm into a spiritualistic paradigm. It needs a revolution. There is still too much resistance against this. And this is incredible because we could have progressed even much more than we are today if we would have followed this paradigm, in particularly in medicine, as we can see it from these congresses of medicine and spirituality, demonstrating now that by associating the normal medical care and also the spiritual cares in some of the pathologies, there is huge, much bigger chances of cure of the illnesses. Now, Jesus and possession. So we talked a little bit about material things, but again, Joanna is insisting attachment to material goods become a cage that imprisons the distracted possessor, who becomes part of what he supposes he has. He supposes he has because, again, one day, sooner or later, he will have to. It will not be to him anymore. It's a kind of hypnosis, it's a kind of dream or whatever. It stiffens the feelings, which lose the tonic of solidarity, the compassion and charity, forgetting others to think only of himself, the pure selfishness. Jesus encountered with the rich and young man who was willing to follow him is of extraordinary contemporary content. You remember this story? Okay, go and sell all what you have, give all to the others, and follow me. And the rich man was not ready to do that effort really to follow Jesus. And Jesus knew it. That's why he gave this example, because he was more attached to the material goods than temporary goods, to the spiritual goods, which are again immortal and permanent. He then renounced to the permanent and was lost in the emptiness. This is what happened with this rich man and with a lot of men today in the humanity. Only the one who is free is happy. And we are not free if we are depending on material things. The more we have, the more we want. No, the one which is rich is the one who is satisfied with what he has, even if it's little. This one is really free and happy, as told by Joanna here. Jesus and torments. Jesus was a prototype of happiness. He loved natures, humans, the simple labors with which he wove in your wonderful parables. Human torments come from the guilt of conscience of each individual. Human torments comes from the guilty conscience of each individual. You see again here this sentiment of guilt, which is giving us the torments, as we discussed also in the previous slides. Your current torments are torments that you engendered in past lives. Again, through the reincarnation, understanding where we come from, and that today is a consequence of what we have done yesterday. Understanding also how to come out of it in acting today to reserve us a better tomorrow. The unforgettable encounter of Jesus with a woman of a libertine life, who washed her feet with ointments of tears, wiping them with her hair. We have psychotherapy for all torments. Again, another example from the gospel, which is helping us to in this way. Jesus and rest. Without a doubt, human needs vacations, rest, relaxation, which provide him with joy and recovery to continue working. Yes, but work is the law of life as much as rest. This one, however, is not stand still idleness, no rush in the pursuit of no things. In your physical and mental health program, includes rest as a priority need, but take care of what you will do as a restful resource. Rest, yes, but with edifying actions. So you see, again, very common sense advices, very simple psychology of Joanna, helping us to reflect and to think about our daily concerns. Jesus and insecurity. Security on earth is a very difficult and remote achievement, isn't it? No, albeit in Western Europe, we can claim so much, but in a lot of other places in the world, it's really far, far, far from being the cases, and even here. Understanding the primitivism in which the humanity of his time was struggling, Jesus realized how difficult it would be to implant peace in hearts and how many tears would be shed in order for this to happen. And Jesus predicted the ruin of the Temple of Jerusalem. He also told, I did not bring the peace, but Fabrizio, can you help me? Espada?
The sword.
The?
The sword.
Shorted. Okay. And so he was seeing that this insecurity was not to disappear from the earth so quickly. It will disappear, but still, you see, today, 2,000 years later, still we are struggling with it. Desiring security in life, seek Jesus and entrust your plans to him. Do the part that concerns you and don't lose heart in conquering the goals that seems distant. Let's go slowly but surely and safely to the goal. Jesus and suffering. Suffering is a very difficult subject. How to explain, how to console someone who is suffering. It's really not easy. So let's see some advices from Joanna de Ângelis on this way, taking the example of Jesus again. When sought after by people with illnesses, Jesus always inquired whether they really desired health or believed that he could help them. What do you want? He asked. Do you remember? I want to cure. I want not to be blind anymore, and so on. So then he went and cured the guy. Voilà. And do you believe I can help you? Yes, I can believe. You remember this woman who just touched the how to say, the dress of Jesus and got almost instantaneously cured. And Jesus also showed the example. Your face, you cured thanks to your face, isn't it? Of fundamental importance, continues Joanna, for the patient's reestablishment was their intimate security about these two requirements, willing and believing. And again, I mean, a cure, the medicine is helping us. A coach can help us. Jesus helped us, but we only can cure ourselves. It's an auto cure. We are curing us ourselves. Nobody. I mean, the external help is of course precious, but if we don't want to cure the patient who has a severe illness like a cancer, the medicine is helping. And between the one who really has a willing to cure and the other one who really is how to say, giving up and so on, the chances to cure are multiplied by 2, 3, 4, and this is more is demonstrated more and more nowadays by the scientific studies. Complementing each other, so willing and believing, they become essential for the physical and psychic restoration of the candidate for the cure. If you want peace and health and believe in its immediate conquest, don't postpone your time to get them, for this is now. Ingratitude now. Ingratitude, which is contempt, presents itself as a serious imperfection of the soul, which must be corrected. The people really who are showing ingratitude are difficult. It's something when we see it, really, we are helping someone, and then the one we have helped is rewarding us with ingratitude, it hurts, isn't it? It burns. But let's see. Jesus always admonished the ingrateful who crossed his path, because exactly it is a serious imperfection. So Jesus should make this clear and understandable for anyone, in particular the ones which are showing ingratitude. The master knew the moral weaknesses of human and always worried about achieving them, so that the intended cures would achieve in the matrices of diseases where they originate, eradicating them so that they would not again produce miasmas and disturbing evils. So again, to cure, to teach, look, the origin of your illnesses, of your problem, and work now to remove this cause so that the effect does not come back again. Don't worry about the ungrateful ones on your ways of love. So even if we are rewarded with ingratitude, let's continue doing the good around us, because people, again, showing ingratitude, they will also improve and become better with the time. Go on offering light without worrying about the stubbornness or darkness. We should seed and then not worry too much if we don't have immediate results or if we don't have any recognition out of it. Jesus and enemies, I'm coming to the end slowly. The most cruel enemies, however, remains in the grip of the own creators, who vitalize them with pride, selfishness, and the disguise of apparent social accommodation. So the worst enemy is in ourselves. Jesus knew how to identify them, as no one ever managed to do in such depths. A lot of times when the Pharisee came and prepared some traps for him, he was seeing it. He was reading in their minds their bad intentions, and he always, with the help, of course, of his intelligence and the inspiration, found a way to give the right answer in order to bring the teachings he brought us. Sorry, this one is not translated. So in front of his vision, penetrating vision, the hypocrites and the cheaters were, how to say, unmasked. I don't know if the translation is very well, so it sometimes goes via the French in my head. But okay. He was really seeing this from the people in front of us. And hypocrisy is really something also which is existing here on earth. But we must be aware that hypocrisy does not exist in the spiritual world. And Jesus was seeing with his spiritual eyes, detecting immediately the hypocrisy of the others. And he was also always reacting against hypocrisy. He was loving the Pharisees, for instance, but he was always shouting on them because of the hypocrisy, because some few people with this hypocrite attitude were putting in prejudice a lot of other people. So this Jesus was clearly showing it openly, unmasking them in order to again to protect the majority. Don't be afraid to face your shadows, those enemies that roam in yourself. This is our first task when we talk about moral reform, about becoming better person. We have really to take these shadows out of us, and these are really our inner enemies. Selfishness and pride are also two very big ones. Get along with everyone in your social group, but preserve yourself without following the models manufactured by devouring and neurotizing consumerism. So this is of extreme actuality today, because we are flooded daily by information, by advertisement, more and more. Internet is for free, but it's not. We in turn get a lot of advertisement, cookies checking us, tracking us, and then bringing us advertisement on what we search or who showed some interest at a given point in time and so on. It's really difficult to resist to all this, isn't it? It needs from us exactly this strength, not to fall into these traps, and really satisfy ourselves with the necessary, avoid everything which is superfluous. Do we really need something? If the answer is no, is just answer with a smile and say, no thanks, I don't need it, I don't want it. And let's be, and this is again something that we need to show, this discernment nowadays. Also the truth and the fake news, making the differences. We really have to be extremely careful today to fight against this sort of enemies. Okay. So I'm finishing slowly but surely, again, putting a general sentence. Through more time-consuming process, in-depth psychology has now reached the same conclusion that he, Jesus, easily enjoyed 2,000 years ago. So this is a sentence of Joanna de Ângelis in the introduction of the book, showing, and this is also what I can see, slowly but surely all these values, emotional intelligence and so on, are getting more and more important in our today's society and are being recognized by psychology and also other scientific areas. Closing again with Kardec. Our point of view, as you see, understands everything that connects to the knowledge of the metaphysical part of man. Metaphysics, which is out of the physics. Because to study the nature of spirits, to study the nature of spirits is to study man, since he will one day be part of the spiritual world. So we have added to our main title the Journal of Psychological Studies in order to understand all its importance. So this is his famous subtitle that Kardec put into the Spiritist magazine, showing clearly that his understanding was in line with Joanna's one, as I tried to present it to you today. And Spiritism works side by side with science in the field of matter. It admits all truths that science proves. However, it does not stop where science stops, but it continues its researches into the field of spirituality. And this is again this revolution, this disruptive approach out of the box brought by Kardec, reasoning scientifically on spiritual matters, going out of this materialist paradigm that is still in force today, and open our mind, have a larger lateral view, embracing not only the material world, but also the spiritual world. And this is what will make science in general, humankind, and psychology progress. So that is what I wanted to say to you today. I thank you a lot for your attention and your time, and also your patience.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you very much for this talk. It's been amazing how this talk is remind us how great Jesus is as our model and guide. And each chapter was a good reminder of how great, as we have in Him as our model God, He will assist us to make ourselves a better person every day. It was great, great talk. I'm concerned about time. I want to say, first of all, to our friends that were watching us on Facebook. Facebook was down for 2-3 minutes, so some of our Facebook friends they missed some of the talk, but it was just a short period of time when Facebook was down. So I apologize on behalf of Facebook for that issue, but I'm glad that everybody managed to get back online. So they're all back here with us. I would like to make some announcements for our next talk. So our next talk, our Spiritist talk, is going to be on the 22nd of October, and our speaker is Florencio Alton. So again, just repeating the dates, make a note. Our next talk is the 22nd of October with the speaker from Brazil, Florencio Alton. Florencio has been in Poole and Bournemouth, and a lot of our friends from the Spiritualist Church have met him and have known him for a while. So he will be here with us next talk. Before I go to Bob for the closing prayer, is there any closing remarks that Bob or Charles would like to make tonight?
Thank you very, very much, Charles, for a most illuminating talk. I think the way you have expounded what are some very, very basic but important truths has been very, very good. I didn't think one could improve upon the Gospels, but obviously Joanna's work has done that, and your interpretation of them this evening has helped me very much, and I hope many others. Thank you very much indeed.
Yes, thank you, Bob. I think, yes, we can thank also Joanna and Divaldo, of course, who was the medium, for bringing us these enlightening teachings, and also giving us in more practical view of answering to our daily concerns, actual ones, how we can find answers in the example Jesus left us. And today, in this particular book, particularly in the psychological area, the psychological questions. Again, I apologize. It's not my specialty, so I stayed really superficial. I cannot enter. I'm not capable to enter in the in-depth in the spiritual conceptions and so on, but rather stay together with Joanna in this common sense, simple rules, and again showing how these examples given by Jesus 2000 years ago are still extremely actual today. Again, when we take out of the Gospels these diamonds that are left within, that Jesus brought, and wipe a little bit all the ash and all these mistakes who have been introduced along the time, and which led to all this wrong interpretation. So again, going to the sources, we see how consistent are, how actual these teachings are, and again, following these advices is really the solution for our self-improvement and also the improvement of our humanity on Earth. Again, I would like to thank a lot Fabrizio and the Spiritist Society of Bournemouth and the Poole Christian Spiritualist Church for the opportunity of being with you today and sharing these few thoughts.
Thanks, Charles. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. Just few comments that is coming up here on Facebook. Our dear friend Jusara say, thank you. It's always great to study Joanna de Ângelis. A comment from Elsa, thank you, Charles. Good explanation. And a comment from Rihanna, thank you, Charles. I haven't read this book yet, but this was a great summary of this book and very enlightening. I will sure read it. And also one comment here from Val, our dear friend Val. Thanks, dear Charles, for the great lecture. So with no further ado, I would like to invite Bob to do our closing prayer.
Thank you, Fabrizio, and thank you, Charles. Let us bring our thoughts together and place ourselves before the great God, the invisible, the supreme, God of the invisible, God of the visible, our Creator and Heavenly Parent. We thank you for what we have shared together this evening. We thank you for the teaching of Jesus, as explained to us by Joanna and as revealed to us in further study tonight. May what we have learned inspire us to discern and follow more closely your will for us, O God, in our lives. May you lead us in all truth, directed by your Holy Spirit, to follow the teaching and loving example of Jesus. May we work day by day for the spread of your love and your joy and your peace around the world, to all people, and for the advancement of your heavenly kingdom in each of our hearts. Amen.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Charles, once again. Thank you very much for everyone who has been here with us on Facebook and YouTube. And I hope to see you on the 22nd of October. Have a good evening, and I see you soon. Goodbye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.